Hi, I'm Earl, and I'm old. I've been around a while, and I've seen some things. Today, we're going to talk about the H1 B Visa. What it was supposed to do, how it got used, what it's done to the U.S. workforce, what Congress has tried to do about it, and how we might fix it so it works like it was originally intended to. The original idea. The H-1B visa program was introduced by Congress in 1990 as part of the Immigration Act. It was meant to help American companies bring in specialized couldn't find enough qualified U.S. workers. Think scientists, engineers, IT professionals, and other high-skill roles. The intention wasn't to replace American workers. It was to supplement the workforce, particularly in fast-moving, innovation-heavy industries like tech and medicine. The law even included a requirement that companies pay the prevailing wage for the role to avoid undercutting American workers. Sounds good, right? That's because it was. How it was initially used. In the early years, companies like Microsoft, Intel, and Oracle used H-1Bs to bring in highly skilled individuals for specific, hard-to-fill roles. The program filled gaps where the U.S. educational system couldn't quite keep up with the explosive demand for technical skills. These early hires often had advanced degrees and went on to become long-term contributors to the American economy, some even starting companies of their own. At first, it really was a tool for targeted hiring and global competitiveness. What it has turned into. Over the past 2 decades, the usage shifted heavily. Large outsourcing firms like many of the consulting services and others started to dominate the visa pool. By filing tens of thousands of applications each year, they flooded the system with requests, pushing out smaller U.S. employers who wanted to hire a few highly specialized workers. These firms began placing workers in bulk at client companies, including big U.S. corporations. And this is where the controversy begins. The Disney example. In 2015, Disney made headlines when they laid off several American IT workers and replaced them with H-1B workers provided by an outsourcing firm. What made it worse? The outgoing U.S. workers were required to train their replacements. Now, technically, everything Disney did was legal, but it sure didn't match the original spirit of the program. Instead of being used to fill skill gaps, the program had become a legal workaround to reduce labor costs. Workers on H-1B visas are often paid less than their U.S. counterparts, and because their visa is tied to their job, they have limited ability to negotiate or leave. Real-world impact on U.S. society. This shift hasn't just affected tech jobs. It's created ripple effects across the broader workforce and education system. Fewer Americans in tech and specialized fields. Wages in many IT and STEM careers have been suppressed for over a decade due to a steady pipeline of H-1B labor willing to work for less. This wage pressure discourages U.S. workers, especially mid-career ones, from entering or staying in these professions. Less incentive for students to pursue STEM. Young Americans are increasingly avoiding tech careers when they perceive low wage growth and competition from temporary visa holders. Universities report declining enrollment in computer science and engineering in some segments of the population, especially among domestic students. Disrupted career progression. Entry-level, mid-level roles were once stepping stones for U.S. workers are now often outsourced or filled via H-1B contractors, seeking the latter. Regional economic stagnation. In regions where large outsourcing firms dominate contracts, local employment ecosystems thin out, local tech talent relocates, and small businesses suffer. The indentured worker effect. H1B workers are tied to their sponsoring employer. If they quit, they lose their visa. That dynamic makes it hard for them to report abuse or negotiate for better wages, creating an uneven playing field. Here's a personal example. Years ago, a friend of mine sold used furniture, and I helped deliver some beds to a large multifamily home. When we arrived, I realized I had stumbled into a hidden corner of the H1B world. Every tenant in the house worked in IT and was here on an H1 B Visa. These were people with master's degrees, smart, capable, and hard-working, but they were living 3 or 4 to a bedroom, sleeping on used beds, and working on cracked laptops. The man who owned the house also owned the company that sponsored their visas. He paid them, but reportedly required kickbacks to maintain their sponsorship. I can't verify every detail, but when you hear the same story from multiple people in the same situation, the truth starts to emerge. That experience stuck with me. These workers weren't just underpaid, they were stuck. Trapped in a legal gray zone a long way from home. Random lottery equals broken priorities. Today, H-1B visas are distributed by lottery when applications exceed the annual cap. This system doesn't favor the most qualified candidates or the jobs that need it most. It's just luck. Taxpayer dollars outsourcing jobs. Some outsourced tech jobs go to H-1B workers on government contracts. That means taxpayer money is sometimes funding job displacement. Again, this isn't the fault of individual H-1B workers. They're just taking an opportunity. The issue is the system being gamed at scale. Attempts at reform. What Congress tried and why it failed. Congress hasn't ignored this issue. Several efforts have been made to reform the H-1B program. Some have had bipartisan support, most have failed. Here's a quick summary of what has been tried and why it didn't stick. 1. The H-1B and L-1 Visa Reform Act 2007-2017 proposed raising wage requirements, improving enforcement, and prioritizing higher skilled workers. Stalled due to heavy lobbying from tech companies and outsourcing firms who argued it would limit innovation and create bottlenecks. The Protect and Grow American Jobs Act 2019 tried to stop firms from hiring H-1Bs if more than 15% of their workforce were visa holders. Blocked in the Senate after pushback from influential trade groups and firms relying on outsourced labor. 3. Trump-era executive orders and rules. Attempted to narrow definitions of specialty occupations and increase scrutiny on H-1B petitions. Many were overturned or watered down in court after legal challenges from business coalitions. 4. The Fairness for High-Skilled Immigrants Act. Focused on green card backlog reform, but tied up with visa reform debates, causing gridlock. Why it keeps failing. Big business lobbying. Major corporations and outsourcing firms fund campaigns and push back hard against restrictions. Bipartisan paralysis. Even when both parties agree there's a problem, they often disagree on the fix. Economic fear tactics. Opponents argue reform will cripple tech growth, even when the evidence says otherwise. How do we fix it? Let's be clear. This isn't about blaming the workers who come here. Most are just trying to build better lives. And it's not about shutting down the program. It's about fixing loopholes so the system works for everyone. Here are a few constructive ideas that have already been proposed by people who study this stuff. 1. Prioritize genuine skill shortages. Give preference to companies hiring for roles that require rare skills and higher wages. Replace the random lottery with a points-based system based on skill level, wage offered, and economic need. Raise the wage floor. Adjust the prevailing wage calculation to reflect real market rates. That levels the playing field and removes the incentive to use H-1Bs just to cut costs. 3. Cap outsourcing dominance. Limit how many visas a single firm can apply for to prevent system flooding and restore balance for smaller employers. Improve auditing and enforcement. Make sure companies aren't misclassifying roles or underpaying visa workers. Enforce existing rules more aggressively and increase penalties for non-compliance. Increase green card access. Let the truly talented people here on H1Bs move forward permanent residency faster. That helps with integration and gives them more labor rights. Decouple visas from employers. Allow H1B visa holders to change jobs more freely without risking deportation. This will protect them from abuse and restore fair labor competition. Require U.S. workforce inclusion plans. Make companies show how they're developing domestic talent pipelines, like apprenticeships, community college partnerships, or upskilling programs if they want to hire H1Bs. Final thought. How we move forward. The H1B visa program still has potential. It just needs to be updated to match the world we live in now. The goal shouldn't be cheap labor. It should be smart talent strategy, filling real gaps, growing innovation, and protecting fair wages. So what do we do now? 1. Push for bipartisan reform that ties visas to skill and wage, not luck or volume. 2. Support legislation that prioritizes American job growth while protecting ethical global talent pipelines. 3. Encourage educational investment in STEM programs for domestic students by restoring fair wage growth. 4. Demand that government contractors meet stricter labor fairness rules, including in visa hiring. 5. And vote for leaders who put skilled labor policy ahead of corporate campaign donations. That's how we make the system work again, for everyone. If this kind of Earlsplaining made sense to you, drop a comment, subscribe, let me know what you'd like me to unpack next. Thanks for listening. See you next time.